We are back. Tornado tag, baby.
How hard is it to not say that other word?
Oh, it's hard. I feel like we vinced it. You know what I mean? Like you can't say that word, pal. Podcast
Tornado tag entertainment.
Tornado tag. Get the P out. Take the P out.
That's what I'm going to do after the podcast. I'm going to get the
P out. But no, we are going to bring back the branding. There is merch. If you want to grab it, it is in the link below. Grab a Tornado tag merch. The branding for this, Banging Beers, Not Cool in High School, all coming back, but they're not going to be podcasts. So unless this really, really blows up and you guys really want to listen to this in your car, we'll think about it and we'll maybe do podcasts. But I'm not really looking forward. This is more of a live stream. This is more just us hanging out on video doing that. I don't have the time and energy to run 6 pages anymore. So it's essentially Tornado Tag is back, but it's a playlist name, if that makes sense.
If you pay us $700 an episode, we'll bring back a podcast for it.
Yes, if you pay me $700 an episode, it'll all be a podcast for each, exactly.
It will then become a daily podcast.
It will become a daily podcast. But we are bringing in a great fun topic today: 80s and 90s WWE tag teams. This was brought in
for me
by request.
There is some overlap before we get to the request. I'm kind of, even if they did have a run in the WWE, we're just going to focus on the outside of WWE run. There's one team that I can think of that had a very, very sharp distinction between when they were outside of WWE and when they were in WWE. Absolutely. We kind of talked about it during the WrestleMania 5 stream we did.
Yeah. Philly Mike and Precious still members of the team, and we'll be bouncing in and out when they're available. But for the most part, it's going to be me and BP with a rotating guest. So we don't know who's going to be every week. This week we're going to bring in the man who decided to make this week's topic. And hopefully we can get him for not just part 1, but we can get him for part 2 as well.
I got to find some wood somewhere.
Yeah, we're going to knock on all of it because after, I don't want to say we're going to guarantee this every Thursday. If we miss a Thursday, it's what it is. This is another reason why it's not going to be like a main thing. It's just like when we can do it, we can do it, because I'm not stressing myself out like that anymore. Yeah. But the next time we record it will be part 2 of this, where we'll be focused on the WWE side of things. So BP, why don't you introduce our guest tonight? And you can bring him in because you have the power.
I do, don't I? Our guest tonight needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. It is Gavin's dad.
There he is, Gavin, the great. What's up, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I the whole time where I'm like, man, it'd be fun to like have some people on, and BP was like, yo, reach out, and I was like, oh, I wonder if we'll do it.
It's an idea. Yeah, exactly.
And here you are.
Seems like a fun idea, so appreciate it.
Give us a little introduction. Tell the people who you are.
So my name is Palmer, but everybody knows me as Gavin's dad. I'm the guy who was the official costume mistress and prop comic for sign assistant when we bring Gavin to the shows, and he dresses up like his buddies and old time legends. I guess this whole wrestling thing just started from baseball season being over. He started going to baseball season when he was about a year and a half old. He started going to local minor league games with me, and I've taken him all over. I think 7 years old now. He's been to 225 professional baseball games. And wow. I have a journal of every game we've ever been to. So it's just been something fun for me. But in the wintertime, like, I was noticing he was starting to get a little bit like bummed out. He didn't have anything to look forward to. So my wife called me at work one time and said, he's watching wrestling. And I said, I think it's pretty tame. I said, keep an ear out. I don't think it's like the Attitude Era anymore. And I came home and he knew the champions, the Intercontinental champions. He knew, like, I was amazed what he learned in just a couple of days. And, it kind of sparked my interest in what I liked back in the 80s and early 90s. And then I got out of it a little bit and then picked back up in the Attitude Era. But it was interesting to see it through a child's eyes.
And he picked it up all by himself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. BP, this kid's your prodigy.
Yes.
A couple times, he would ask just, questions about something he would see on regular WWE broadcasts. And he'd ask me about, a legend that maybe they spotlighted or a picture. And then, that kind of, we would go down the rabbit hole that night. And, I'll bet you he's probably the only 7-year-old that's upstairs watching Impact right now. And
He's like,
has seen a dream team match, you know, and knows who Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine are. So
That was a trivia question.
it was, yeah. It was.
Last week for us, it was a trivia question when Tony Deppen hosted a wrestling trivia. But yeah, hopefully Naomi makes her debut tonight, right? That's the rumor. Is that tonight?
I know she's at tapings. I don't know if she's actually going to be on tonight's show.
Yeah. But yeah, so Gavin he's just a bright spot in the business. I remember the first time I met Gavin. He came to a PPW show and he dressed up as South Philly's finest. And when I go to shows, my whole thing is like, how can I make someone have an experience that night? And I remember, and I just think to myself, if I was in a fan spot, what would make me happy? And I would just go, and I'm nobody, I'm a commentary, nobody knows who the hell I am, but I would walk around and I would, hey, thank you for coming, thank you for supporting, and I would try to do that to as many people as I can and just kind of thank the fans. And I remember coming out and Gavin's dressed as South Philly's finest, and I was just like, and I ran back through the curtain and I said, yo, as soon as you come out, hang a right front row, there's a kid dressed as you. Give him an experience. And Jimmy came around and seen him and high-fived him and then went to walk and do his thing and then realized, no, we have something here. And then grabbed him, put him on the apron, clap spot. And not only did Gavin do the clap spot, but he did it like he's been rehearsing this his entire life.
Such a natural performer at all times.
The facial expressions, he was shaking his shoulders. He was so into it. Like he knew exactly what to do. He's just a natural performer, has zero fear, zero anxiety of being in front of a room full of people that he doesn't know, and just completely embraces everything about it. And I'm a grown man and I wish I had that confidence and I had fearlessness.
Absolutely.
And, the kid is a couple
times.
Yeah, he's been like a little member. Yeah, a little member of our family. He's been a bright spot.
Thank you. You guys have been doing content like in Hamburg and things, and you'll call him over cold, and as he walks over, I'm thinking to myself, oh no, they're gonna be sorry. Like and whatever it is that you ask him to do or whatever it is, like he just does it. And I'm amazed every time. Like he doesn't get stage fright, he doesn't get nervous, he doesn't shy away. Like he just, you know, and just the opposite for me. It took me a very long time to be comfortable in front of people, but he's picked up to it like that. It's amazing to see him enjoy it.
He's gonna I hope he realizes like how vital that's going to be for him going on in there. Like, dude, who is it? Walker told us the best. He goes, once you learn this business and you master the mental of the wrestling business, the life out there is easy. When you learn how to live the gimmick and learn how to live the life of professional wrestling, the real world is cake. You learn who the good people are, the bad people are, how to improv, how to get something done, how to control the crowd, how to navigate your way through something, like just those minor details of just wrestling. And he's learning it at this age and knows it. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna kill it in life. Like
the thing that makes me proud is he does not take any of this for granted. He realizes he's in a very special place with the access that he's gotten and the friendships that he's made. And he realizes that this isn't something that's just handed to everyone. And you know, it's interesting to see how he wants to protect it and nurture it, and you know, always wants to do the right thing, always wants to be seen as a hard worker. He knows he can't carry anything you know, of any substance, but he says if I'm there early and I leave late, then I hope that they know that I'm there and I'll help in any way that I can. So to hear a little kid who's willing to pay his dues, it's pretty neat, you know. It's
awesome, man. And like the thing is too is like a lot of kids his age are backstage and they're running around and they're being kids. Like they're running around, they're having fun, they're fighting with wrestlers. He kind of just sits in the corner, like literally ears open, mouth shut, like literally wrestling business. He just sits there in the corner, and you have to kind of almost be like, Gavin, come here. Like you have to almost tell him to come to you because he doesn't want to bother anybody. Like he has locker room etiquette even at this age. Like he's an anomaly. He's so good. And the storylines, and like how you said, like not only is he protecting it, but he's protecting his character. He protects his storylines. He's not seen with people he's rivaling with. Like he gets all of it.
He's not going to be riding with Tommy Vex anytime soon.
Did you see the Tommy Vex interview?
I did not. No.
I just clipped it today where Tommy Vex is like, here's a picture of me at Monday Night Raw dressed as Ric Flair. And I go, how are we not? Why are we not talking about this? You're gonna tell me you were a little kid dressing up as wrestlers? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm not mean to this kid. I'm trying to protect him from this terrible business.
Yeah, don't believe him.
Yeah, but
he's trying to come off as nice, but deep down
he's trash human. That Mary Beth's all right though, but she's a queen. But Tommy,
she's a queen. She's a queen, but she locked Gavin in a broom closet. So
I'm sure that was an accident. No, but yeah, it's just I'm super happy that he's having these experiences, and also just like the way he's conducting is he's having fun, and the locker room loves it. I should have brought my art up from the old tornado tag, but he makes art for everybody. You guys, do that together. Like, honestly, man, like, not to get weird and sappy and stuff, but like, I wish I had something like that I connected with a father with like that. Like wrestling aside and him having fun and meeting wrestlers and doing all that is awesome. You know what I mean? That's beautiful. But the fact is that you guys are doing it together and as a team, and you guys are doing this like that's gonna like, not many parents and kids have that bond, and I think it's beautiful what you guys have. And I think bigger picture, that's what it's all about. I think that's what most people really enjoy about it is not just Gavin's welcome backstage, but you are, and you're a part of our family as well, and we love you just as much. And like, I never seen so many wrestlers show up at a bar one night and go see a band. You know what I mean? Like we just generally we try to support you back as much as you guys support us, and we just love having you around.
It's very nice of you to say. Yeah, I'm the luckiest guy on earth. I get to hang out with my best friend, all the time. I do have a job that takes me away from home quite a bit at stretches. So when I'm home, it's hard when friends, call me up and say, hey, do you want to come over and play some music for a while? I want to take my son to a wrestling show, or, I want to go out and play catch in the yard. I've got one daughter who's ready to graduate college and another one that's ready to graduate high school. And I just know how fast it goes. And I don't want to miss a moment of it. And I don't want to, if he wants to do it, I want to do it with him. And I hope, I know there's going to be a day where he says, Dad, my friends and I are going to see Monday Night Raw, and there's just not a ticket for you. We're going with somebody else.
I don't think that's going to be the case. I honestly think he's going to get that age and he's like, yo, my dad's going with us. Like, I'm being honest. You remind me a lot of Precious and his dad. Like, their bond eternally is going to be professional wrestling. Like, no matter what happens, Precious and his dad, like, they will ever, forever, in blood, also be bonded by professional wrestling. So I see a lot of similarities there. But yeah, man, like, it's just, I don't know, it's sick. I love it. There was something else I was gonna say there. Oh, you're a profession. Like, I won't really get into it, but like, I relate. Like, that was my dad's. It wasn't like a paid profession. He was more on the volunteer side, but like, that's not an easy thing to like I can't say the word
decompress.
Right now. Okay. Like, yeah, get yourself out of that mentality of like that profession and that lifestyle and living that and doing that, and then come home and then also manage life situations. You know what I mean? Like, my dad mostly put a lot of his time and effort into that field, and I didn't have a lot of time and effort and memories with him. So the fact that you're able to juggle both, and I'm sure it's not easy. I'm sure you're exhausted and you're beat up, and there's a lot to it, but you find the silver linings in it, and it's just, like I said, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Very kind of you to say. Appreciate it.
I'll never forget the drawing. I still have it hanging up in my room right here. Donnie Bambino. And then I can
shirt,
confer
that leopard print shirt.
There it is. His dad hates leopard print. It's better than that bowling shirt he has. Oh my! So he walked into the sanctuary, and I go, "Oh, you got a new shirt?" And he goes, "I threw that fucking thing. Oh, I threw that thing away." He goes, "I'll never wear that again, you asshole." He goes, "You roasted me so bad with that shirt, I had to get rid of it." He came in with his orange shirt to match his gear, and I was like, "Are you a mobster or are you a bowler? Like, what are you going for here?" And he's like, I hate you so much."
We worked so many bowling references in the commentary that night.
Oh no!
I somehow worked in "Who do you think you are? I am."
Yeah.
Into the commentary that
No.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He goes, and the funny thing is no one will ever hear it because there's no footage.
No.
Footage got ruined.
and it was a good match too. It was Bambino and Mike Skyros. It was an excellent match.
Wow.
It's a shame that people don't see that, because
Yeah.
a lot of people, and I won't put names out, but a lot of the boys in the back did not have faith in Donnie that night. And there was a lot of questions on Donnie.
I was like, wow, Donnie's gonna be in the deep end tonight, and
yeah,
he didn't just tread water, he swam. He swam.
It was really, really impressive. All right, that's enough about Donnie Bambino.
And real quick, just before you start with the topic, like I cannot believe how lucky I am and to take him. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. Like you take your kids to like the Wiggles or something because they're into it, but you're not. You're older. You're going to watch like little kid stuff. He is watching some amazing talent that lives within 100 miles of us in every direction. And I don't care if we're in Harrisburg. I don't care if we travel to to Broadheads, wherever you go. There's somebody on the card that he's met before, and he's like, oh, I can't wait to see this guy wrestle. The talent, the new kids that are coming like locally, there's too many to mention by name. But anywhere you go to watch a show, you're going to see some amazing talent and a lot of potential.
What was does he watch AEW?
He does. Yeah.
What was his moment seeing Action Andretti and the Jericho spot? Because like as a kid, I couldn't. As an adult, I freaked out. Like he's been watching Action Andretti at PPW now for the better half of a year and a half, and then to see his first person that he's been watching on the independent scene now make it to TV, that's got to be insane.
So I'm not sure that he was able to differentiate between the difference upon like making an appearance on television, and I'm not sure he understood like the difference from being signed. I had an indication the last match that Action wrestled at PPW, I just got the feeling that he may be indicating to us that he's not coming back. I can't remember if he blew kisses to the crowd or the way he said thank you. It was something a little bit more than he had done in the past.
Yeah, and he came into that last PPW match after he had a Dark Elevation match that left against QT Marshall that left the crowd with a standing ovation.
Okay. Yeah. So when I came home and showed Gavin the Jericho and Action footage, like over the moon, just so excited. He's so genuinely happy for his friend. Other people that he's seen, if we see somebody on AEW Dark, we always try and he's just so excited to see them on Impact. He sees Moose. I think Moose is wrestling, and haven't seen Moose a couple times. It's such a thrill for him to see his friends on TV.
Yeah, and does it ruin the magic? Like is any of it ruin them? Like being backstage and seeing, I guess the like how the cookies are made, and then going out and because he's still somehow he's still so invested into it.
He does everything he possibly can to not find out the night's events. He likes to be surprised, and every once in a while, like something will slip and he'll have an idea. But for the most part, he's really kind of squared away with how it all happens, and but he keeps the secrets, and
I love it.
He's his alone.
He's ahead of the curve so much. All right, BP, let's get into this. 80s and 90s tag team wrestling's non-WWE.
You couldn't just stretch a little bit more, could you?
Is your pick?
The Eagles are about to make a pick. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. They traded up. So yeah, we're talking about tag teams, vintage tag teams. I'm sure Palmer's going to get more into the early 80s. Him and I both will probably be able to really go over the mid 80s or the mid to late 80s. I might even creep into the 90s and a little bit of ECW. But it really all does start with Jim Crockett Promotions, at least for me, because if you go back in the day, that was the tag team territory. That was their draw. That was the main thing. You had your Ric Flairs, you had everything like that, but tag teams were kind of their bread and butter. And it makes me think of the first Starrcade, which I was a baby, so I don't remember the first Starrcade other than to look back at it. But the two teams there are Jack and Jerry Briscoe, and Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood, and that's a great start right there. And people don't really remember Jay Youngblood as much, but that team, because Jay Youngblood unfortunately did pass at a young age, but that team was really something. Of course, Jack and Jerry Briscoe. Jack was a former NWA world champion, and Jerry has had this second life as a stooge with Pat Patterson, doing a podcast with JB. Oh, I said the word. Doing a show with JBL.
How dare you?
just so much great stuff. But just because you have a little bit your memories as an active fan go back a little bit more, Palmer. Who's that first tag team that really jumped out at you that wasn't part of the WWF?
So I remember a lot of AWA stuff.
Okay.
I remember the Road Warriors, obviously. The Fabulous Ones, Steve Kern and Stan Lane.
Well, this is their WWE look, but I have my Beavis and Butthead Road Warriors shirt on.
Okay.
Hawk and Animal. It's hard to see.
Yeah. So I remember, like a couple of AWA tag teams, and then when I realized that there was wrestling on TBS in the evenings, Midnight Express and Rock and Roll. And then when I started getting into collecting wrestling magazines, I learned about so many different territories I didn't know about. And, the Freebirds and World Class and the Von Erichs, so just some of those as a sampling of some of the earliest memories I have.
So ahead of their time, because now trios are like all the rage. Right. With AEW has their trios, and even in WWE, a lot of what used to be like a stable or a faction, they usually cap them off at 3. Well, maybe not the Bloodline. The Bloodline has 4 now. But for a while, it was like the Shield and the Wyatt family, and even pre-Braun. So yeah, the Freebirds and the Von Erichs were really, really ahead of their time as far as the 6-man being the thing.
Well, the longest reigning tag team champions is part of a trio with New Day.
Yeah.
No,
I think the Usos.
Yeah, they just got the throne, but yeah.
And technically, depends on how you count it. A team that became a trio after their big title run. If you count Demolition from when their title win was taped, they actually had a little bit longer of a reign than the New Day. But if you count it from when it actually aired, the New Days was slightly longer.
Yeah.
But that's for next episode. That's for the WWF stuff.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you were talking about like how Gavin will watch all stuff like the Dream Team and everything, and I couldn't imagine being a kid now. Like the same level of interest I had when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old in wrestling. If I had access to the internet and Peacock, oh my goodness! Like every time, I'm going to show my age a little bit here, every time a new video rental store would open up, because we had those back then,
right?
I would scour it for a wrestling section and see if they had a tape that I never rented before. It's that what made me think of that, Palmer, is when you brought up the Road Warriors, because I knew of them. I actually got to see them at I went to one Jim Crockett Promotions show in like 1988 at the Civic Center in Philadelphia, and the main event was the Road Warriors against Sting and Luger. It was right after they turned heel on Dusty. And at first I thought it was, because they would say Hulk and Animal, I thought it was Hulk Hogan and Georgie Animal Steel for some reason. I was like, that's a weird team. Why are they so great? And then you go and your mind's blown. But I remember going to a flea market, and there was an AWA Road Warriors tape, and it only has 2 matches. It's a very short tape. The first match, it's the Road Warriors against Kurt Hennig and Baron von Raschke, and they just brutalize Kurt Hennig. They get DQ'd. They pretty much cause a riot. Somebody throws a chair and hits Hawk in the head while he's walking out.
Wow.
And then this only other match on the tape is it's the rematch off of that angle, where it's the Road Warriors against Kurt Hennig and Larry the Axe Hennig, his dad. And that tape just made me fall in love with the Road Warriors. From the AWA.
I remember back in the wrestling magazines when their pictures, this was when they still looked like the bikers from the Village People. Right. They didn't have the garish makeup and the mohawks. And maybe they did have the hairstyles at that time. But it was when they were still bouncing in Minnesota at that Grandma B's.
Yep.
And it was when they were just getting sent out, and the word was that they could not wrestle, but they could beat the living daylights out of you. And nobody, I read stories later on in life about people showing up and seeing their name up on the card, and they saw they were working with the Road Warriors, and they tipped out. They didn't want to stay.
that would happen a little bit later with the Steiner brothers too.
Yeah.
Although they could work, but they just beat the hell out of people anyway. And the promos, like I wouldn't call Hawk a great promo in the vein of like a Roddy Piper or a CM Punk or somebody like that, or MJF now. But Hawk had some memorable promos, and because they just beat Hennig bloody. He does the hangman spot on where his neck is caught in the ropes and just beating with a chair. He's just spewing blood. And then Larry Hennig comes in and runs him off. And in the back, Hawk is just doing this promo like, "What's Larry Hennig so hot about? Just because we beat the living hell out of his son?" I'm like, yes, that is why he's mad. You beat the living hell out of his son.
Do you think they were one of the guys, like teams who really coined that just scream into a microphone promo? Because like just high intensity, just well, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Hawk was, that was always a thing. You always had the very loud heels, but they definitely helped popularize it.
Yeah.
There's another great one. They did a thing with Bill Apter where Bill Apter would do a little like Pro Wrestling Illustrated corner with different people, and they do one with the Road Warriors, and it's like they're asking Animal, like there are calls for the Road Warriors to be banned from wrestling because they're so violent. How do you feel about that? He's like, I don't care, and Hulk, he don't care either. Paul, talk about Paul Ellering. Paul, he might care a little bit. And Hulk just goes, no, he don't. All right, Paul don't care either. And this is the greatest team ever.
Are they high? Like, are they in your top 5, top 3, number 1?
They're probably my favorite team ever. I think the greatest team ever. And if you just kind of look at it objectively, match quality, all things considered, just sustained draws, like they could be at the top of a company. The Road Warriors are really up there. I mean, they still call it, when a babyface gets a huge pop, they still call it the Road Warrior pop, for a reason. But if I had to say who was the greatest, like objectively the greatest tag team of all time, it's probably going to be the Midnight Express. And with Jim Cornette driving that engine, whatever you may think of his opinions as a wrestling personality, as a manager, I think, at minimum, I would have to hear a very convincing argument to tell me that Jim Cornette is any worse than the 3rd best wrestling manager of all time. Yes, Paul Ellering. Paul Ellering absolutely had some enhancement on some of his promos. And if you look at his bodybuilding days, enhancement elsewhere too.
Yeah. All right, so other teams in that AWA scene.
Oh, the AWA, you would have the High Flyers, are obviously a big one because you have Jim Brunzell and Greg Gagne, who is the son of the owner of the company. If you want to go way back in the day, you have the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser. The Crusher is a guy that doesn't get a lot of recognition now, just because he was kind of before wrestling hit a big national stage. But the Crusher's whole character was kind of a prototype of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was this brawler from Milwaukee who liked to drink beer and get into fights, and he would talk about dancing with his dollies. They're about 200, 300 pounds. If they go under 240 pounds, I got to get rid of them. And some of his promos are just like, if you look back, it's like, this guy is great. This guy is such a character. And it was always weird because Vern had a stranglehold on the world title, and the Crusher was never really in that mix for too long. But if they ever did a thing where like Vern had to go with the Crusher would kind of be the baby face because he was beloved. And Dick the Bruiser was his cousin. I think that might be kayfabe, I'm not sure. But Dick the Bruiser was another very renowned brawler. But that's like old school. And I mean, if we talk about the Von Erichs, the original Von Erich tag team was Fritz, the dad, and Waldo Von Erich in the 60s. But as you get later on into the AWA, Kern Hennig and Scott Hall was a big one. The Midnight Rockers are definitely a big one. Pre-WWF Rockers, Sean and Marty in the AWA. I think a very underrated tag team is Playboy Buddy Rose and Pretty Boy Doug Summers with Sherry. Yep. They had a great run. And then if you get in the late AWA, I think one of the last... Yep, there you go. Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernodle. Definitely another that would be more on the Crockett side.
Who was we watched an old show way back in the one episode or whatever, and it was Midnight Express versus
the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys. Yeah,
they were good.
Oh yeah. That was they would later be the Young Pistols. That would have been WCW, late Crockett, early WCW. The Southern Boys were just one of those babyface tag teams that really worked well at the Midnight Express. The one you always have to mention is the Rock and Roll Express. Like you can't. It's like talking about Hogan without talking about like Randy Savage or Roddy Piper or Andre the Giant. You had Flair and Steve. It's the Midnight Express and the Rock and Rolls is the quintessential tag team feud. But the Midnights had amazing matches with the Fantastics. People argued they had their best matches with the Fantastics. And then the Southern Boys. That what was that from? I want to say that was from Great American Bash 89 or 90. 90. It was when Sting won the world title. That match, when we rewatched that for that show, was so good. I'm like, I want to watch that. I watched it like 2 or 3 times. That's how good that Midnight Express Southern Boys match. The finish would hold up today. Yep, it was like the finish of a really good FTR match.
Yeah, it was really good. That match was really good.
Another AWA tag team that I liked as a precursor to what it became in the WWF was Adonis and Jesse Ventura.
Yes, the North-South
East-West connection.
East-West connection. Yeah, North-South was Adonis and Dick Murdoch.
Yeah.
That's a good name. North-South, East-West connection.
Yeah, East-West was, and it's because it's Adrian Adonis, and it's not Adrian Adonis like the WWF with the
pre-flower shop.
Yeah, it's just the gritty biker Adrian Adonis. And
would Keita Murray and Kit Raff be the new East-West connection now? If they
could be, yeah. The East-West Impeccables. There you go.
The East-West Impeccables.
But it was that great thing of like this biker guy and this flamboyant bleach blonde musclehead from California, and people kind of forget how good Adrian Adonis was before he was one of those guys where I'm one to talk, but I'm not a wrestler. He was one of those guys who let his weight get out of control a little bit, and it affected his in-ring, but he could move. When he was a little bit younger, a little bit more physically fit, he could move. He's a guy that's not really in the scene anymore, but anytime I would see Trajan Horn, he would remind me of Adrian Adonis, and I always meant that in a really good way, in a really positive way.
Yeah. Deceptively athletic for his size.
Exactly. Here's another one from Jeff. Tanaka and Diamond. They weren't bad because they were bad with 2 Ds. Bad Company. The American Bad Company, not that fake Bruce Hart, Brian Pillman, Canadian Bad Company. And there were another team that wound up finding their way. A lot of those late 80s AWA tag teams did wind up finding their way into the WWF under completely different gimmicks. Like the Midnight Rockers just became the Rockers. That was kind of the same. But then way later, they get Bad Company when Akio Sato leaves. They put Pat Tanaka with Paul Diamond under a mask as Kato with the Orient Express. And then one of the ones I remember, because I'm a little younger, so I only remember AWA like watching it as it was happening in the very, very dying days when they were on ESPN. And the top tag team back then was the Destruction Crew, which were 2 guys, big guys that were dressed as construction workers. And it was Mike Enos and Wayne Bloom, who after AWA goes under, come the WWF as the Beverly Brothers. And we'll probably talk about them a little bit next week. But yeah, they and the team I always remembered, if you ever want to see a really bad promo, check out this promo. I think Eric Bischoff is the one doing the interview. One of the teams they were feuding with was the Yukon Lumberjacks. And it was Yukon John Nord, who became the Berserker after that, like Nord the Barbarian, and Scott Norton, a pre-NWO Scott Norton. And then they brought in Scott Norton. His whole thing was they were at the lumber camp, and he went back to the camp while everybody was still out. And they made this whole thing where he set the world record for eating the most flapjacks. And they talk about it in this promo. And as great as John Nord's, we know the John Nord promo we like. It's about the muffler. As great as that was, this one is as boring. And John Nord is trying to sell it. He's really going over the top, but it's just like, you're talking for 5 minutes about a guy eating pancakes. Tony's
Yeah.
just over there thinking about that muffler story. I
Yeah,
know where
the muffler one still fucks with me.
Hey, Janet, my muffler fell out, baby.
Ugh. Bro, if I looked over and seen a muffler in the ring, I'd just be like, time to wrap it up. Take the ropes down. Let's go home.
See, I don't have a muffler story, but that just reminded me that my one and only bump I'll ever take at PPW from a few months ago.
Should have had a muffler fall out.
No, that muffler stayed in. That muffler was in tight. But no, I like handed off my phone before I went out to the ring. But I was wearing a button-down shirt and I had a pocket, and I didn't completely empty my pocket. So when I fell down, my keys and a $5 bill fell out of my pocket. And as I'm rolling out of the ring, I had to quick scoop them up. And then I was like, oh, great. I'm going to leave my keys in the ring. This is wonderful. But at least I didn't have a muffler fall out. Yeah, that would have been bad.
You should have just like threw it out your back when you fell.
See, Paul Bowe was ringside. If I would have just palmed a piece of toilet paper with like Nutella or something on it, and as I go back, just throw it at Paul Bowe, that would have been amazing. That would have been incredible.
Paul Ball got hit with BP's muffler. Wouldn't be the weirdest thing to happen at PPW. A sex toy was used as a weapon one time.
Oh, the fans bring the weapons match?
Yeah. I can't believe that happened. I just, for how family friendly they push, and I just like,
yeah.
I'm more on commentary. I'm like, so how do we do this? And then Paul just said it. I'm like, all right, we're off to the races. Donnie's actual muffler fell out on the way to his car muffler. On the way to a show.
Not the other muffler.
Not the other muffler.
Donnie might not even know what we're talking about when we talk about a muffler.
Yeah. We'll tell you when you get older, Donnie.
Yeah, when you get older, you can learn about muffler. Yeah, we got the Sheiks, Blackwell, and Patera.
Crusher Blackwell.
Crusher Blackwell. Yeah, Jerry the Crusher Blackwell.
My uncle.
My favorite thing he did. He was a bigger guy, but he was athletic. He was another athletic big guy. He could throw a great drop kick. But he was a big guy, probably like 400 pounds or so. And I remember they did a thing with him once where they bring out this long wooden board, and he breaks it with a big splash. And it's like, what does that prove? You jumped on a board and it broke. Of course it did. Like you have a devastating splash. You know how to lower yourself with more force than everybody. I don't know.
How many? Like who was one of some of the longest running tag teams outside like the promotions we just talked about?
AWA, the High Flyers, were an institution until they can't get Greg Gagne, but they got his partner. They got Jim Brunzell, and he became part of the Killer Bees. The Midnight Express, you had so many kind of different incarnations of it. The one I grew up on, again, I'm old compared to most people, but I'm not like old school. But my Midnight Express personally has always been Bob Eaton and Stan Lane, but most people say Bob Eaton and Dennis Condrey. Yeah. And then you have Randy Rose and Dennis Condrey before that. And it starts in Memphis. Jerry Jarrett came up with it, and Norville Austin's a part of it back then. And it's more of a trio. But they were a great sustained thing. They were main event. They had a great run in Memphis, and they were main event in Mid-South for Watts. They had the big feud with the Rock and Rolls. And through all those incarnations, and each one is very good. It's also like the Freebirds. The Freebirds had the same thing. Huge run in Texas, had a really good run with Crockett and WCW. And with my age, my Freebirds are kind of Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin. When a lot of people think of Jimmy Garvin, that's kind of when the Freebirds lost their luster. It was Hayes, Gordy, and Buddy Roberts.
Yeah. Now, was there ever heat with people using Express, like so many different tag teams using Express in the name or using Midnight? Like it seemed like they were all too close, very close to the chest.
It's a very copycat thing back then. You had so many Road Warrior clones. Demolition was basically WWF trying to do the Road Warriors
to have three teams that people talk about: Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Rockers.
You know what I mean? Like with one another, so that helps. Well, that's how great the Midnight Express were. Everybody wanted a piece of the action. Mm-hmm. And if we're talking about and I know Palmer brought them up very briefly, a lot of these teams are also ripping off the Fabulous Ones. The Fabulous Ones were so innovative. And that was again wrestling genius Jerry Jarrett. Jerry Jarrett is has his fingerprints on so many of the great things in the history of wrestling. And it was basically Jackie Fargo is this huge star, and he's winding down. So we're gonna have Stan Lane and Steve Kern wear top hats and do the strut and everything, and they do the big, quite frankly, homoerotic video of them sitting in the hot tub with each other in top hats, drinking champagne. So great. If you have never seen the Fabulous Ones hype video, it's amazing. All done on Jerry Jarrett's
It was a
house.
Chippendales gimmick, right?
It was basically like they wore suspenders, top hats, bow ties. It was a Chippendales thing.
Yeah. All right, we are getting close to 45. We'll try to keep this like an hour and a half. If there's any other AWA, NWA that we didn't cover, we can.
Oh, there's a ton for the NWA. You had the Midnight Express feud, Cornette's Midnight Express, Eaton and Lane against Randy Rose and Dennis Condrey, Paulie Dangerously's original Midnight Express. You had I kind of brought it up earlier, the team that is best known now for being in WWF as the Bushwhackers, but the Sheepherders were a crazy, violent,
brutal,
like just intense tag
I don't think I've ever
team.
seen a Sheepherders match. I have to literally go back and look.
You can probably find some somewhere on Peacock as far as like old Crockett shows. Definitely the TV where they do squash matches, but yeah, they were just doing the violent bloodbaths.
Jeez.
And then
as a young boy reading about them in the wrestling magazines, they were the first wrestlers I was ever afraid of, because the stories of they weren't the walk through the crowd and licking people's faces. These were hardcore guys.
It's so crazy for me to think like they were like a feared tag team, because my whole life they were like mascots,
cartoons, right?
And getting a little later in the WCW, the Steiner brothers. I know Rick's kind of a piece of crap, but Steiner brothers, you can't question how great they were. Doom, I love Doom. Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, they were a great tag team, and they had kind of had they had the Road Warriors, like just two big guys who were very physically imposing, but you also kind of have a more like legitimate athletic thing. They were both football players. We did bring up the Southern Boys, the Young Pistols later. After the Sheepherders leave, they had a bunch. They would always have a flag bearer that would take out the New Zealand flag with them. For a little while, it was Johnny Ace, it was Laurinaitis, but then two of the people who were the flag bearers, Jack Victory and Rip Morgan, become the New Zealand militia after the Sheepherders leave. Probably the Varsity Club. There's just so many, so many teams over the course of the late 80s, early 90s, even into it kind of got silly with like the Patriots. It was Todd Champion, who became Yoshi Kwan later, and Firebreaker Chip, and they were from WCW Special Forces. That was their hometown. And as far as like personal favorite tag teams of mine, and this is a little later, we're creeping into the 90s now, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the Hollywood Blondes. That team was so good. So good. Steve Austin and Pillman. And obviously Pillman's great in and of himself, but Austin becomes one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling. But some of my favorite Steve Austin work is still the Hollywood Blondes.
And if I'm not mistaken, he did not want to be in the team when
he didn't want to be in a tag team. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because
he wanted to stay.
Yeah,
single.
Austin was one of those guys where he was like that can't miss prospect, and it took a while for him to realize that potential. But yeah, he always wanted to be a single star. He wanted to be up at like Ric Flair's level, and he thought being in a tag team was going to bog him down. But it did kind of give him a shot in the arm after the Dangerous Alliance. PG-13, there's a big Memphis tag team for you. PG-13, JC Ice and Wolfie D. They did a little bit of a run in ECW. They had that run as the rappers for the Nation of Domination. Wolfie D was at Icons, Tony, when we went to Icons a few weeks ago. He was up front in like a bandana. I was like, who is that guy? Oh, it's Wolfie D.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about now.
And then JC Ice is Jamie Dundee, the son of superstar Bill Dundee. Of course, in Memphis, you always had the Moondogs every once in a while. They were big in the WWF too, but they had a run in the USWA.
Yeah, these teams I only seen their WWE versions.
How can you not bring up, if you're talking about non-WWF tag teams, how can you not bring up the legendary Tupelo concession stand brawl? One of the Moondogs was part of that. Wayne Ferris and Larry Latham. Larry Latham later became, I think, Moondog. He may have been Spot. I'm not sure. But he was a Moondog. And yeah, just so many of these. Especially like in the South, because you had those tag team territories where everyone had their Fire and Flame. And if you're thinking of the Flame, you're thinking of Continental. That's Jody Hamilton, the Assassin. He becomes the Flame, but you also had the Assassins, who were a great mass tag team back in the day. You could just go on all day. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Just an embarrassment of riches. Tag team wrestling, it's doing okay now. There have been worse times for tag team wrestling, but tag team wrestling was so much more of an institution and a focal point back then. And even when we go into talking about the WWF tag teams, if you look at the 80s, if you look at the golden era, like from like 86 to 89, 90, you literally would have those Survivor Series matches where there would be 10 people on a team because you had 10 legitimate tag teams. Yeah. Right now, I don't think between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, men and women, you might have 10 tag teams all together.
Right.
Yeah, it's rough. And a lot of it is just teams forced together.
Yeah, I mean, and you had a little bit of that. Like some teams like Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez didn't have a gimmick. Like when I have a team, I want a team to have like matching tights and matching come
out together to the same music.
Yeah, but and you would have a lot of that. But then you would also have teams like Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton. They were a great tag team in the Dangerous Alliance. Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas, or Barry Windham and Dustin Rhodes. But yeah, I think we covered all the big ones.
Yeah. Well, let's with this last maybe 10 minutes here, let's get a little extreme.
Oh yeah. This is kind of my add-on. The ECW is definitely my wheelhouse, just because it was my local thing. Like it was my local indie growing up. Was ECW. And
Brian would go to shows dressed up as his favorite, like Bruno Sammartino. He had a really good costume. He would
that ECW legend Bruno Sammartino.
Would it be weird if Gavin came to a show and we just glued a bunch of body hair all over him and he came as Bruno, or Jay as Hawthorne?
George the Animal Steel.
George the Animal Steel. Oh my God!
I have to get a ball cap for that though.
Actually, I just got this in the mail today. My pro wrestling crate, and it came in with
Look at that.
I have my own pair.
Very cool.
Nice.
You'll like this one, Brian.
What is that? I can't. Oh yeah, that's amazing.
It's a patch.
Yeah.
Patch.
That is as no less than Lord Steven Regal himself called him the perfect wrestler.
And then I got.
But yes.
I have the biggest flex over Brian right now.
Oh yeah. This is amazing. Repo Man, yeah.
And one of the members of Demolition.
Yes, I do have an autograph signed by that guy on my wall. He's just in a different gimmick. Yeah. And it was handed to me by Wildfire Tommy Rich of all people.
Okay.
Mine was handed to me by Paul Bowe a month later at a different show because we did a meet and greet with him and never asked him for an autograph or a picture with him.
Was it in the Khrushchev gimmick or the Demolition gimmick?
Demolition. So Demolition was at Hamburg last year for the convention, and we were walking around with GoPros, and Tommy Rich did Tommy Rich and Ronnie Garvin at a table, and Ronnie Garvin gives like this little like it's great to be here, like just acting like a normal human being. You put the camera on Tommy Rich, he's like, somebody say something about fire. he's on. Yeah. And I came back later and I'm like, thank you so much for doing that video, Tommy. It was great. I just love seeing that up close. It gave me goosebumps. He's like, oh, thank you, man. Here. And he hands me an autographed picture, not of him, but of Demolition.
Pro wrestling, baby.
He just picked something off of somebody's table and gave it to me. Like, this is great. I love Tommy Rich.
Yeah. So crazy.
Fantastic.
But there's a guy, he was in the, it was more of a stable, but he was in the York Foundation. Later, he's in the FBI and ECW, but that was more like late 90s when he was there from Nashville, Italy, I believe. I believe he was from I believe he was from Nashville, Italy.
Yeah.
And so like early ECW, I think the first big tag teams are like Tony Stetson and Johnny Hotbody. You have the Super Destroyers, who were two guys under masks. You had Eddie Gilbert and the Dark Patriot, which was a wink and a nod to the smart fans who knew that the Dark Patriot was Doug Gilbert, Eddie's brother. But the first tag team, and they were really probably the first like huge stars ECW had besides like Sabu. The first like homegrown stars were probably the Public Enemy. Like Public Enemy was huge. They would main event shows. They were with Sabu the ones that really got the whole table thing over. And they brought in Bad Company. They brought in Tanaka and Diamond to go against. So they brought in the Funks. They brought in Terry and Dory Funk to go against Public Enemy. And so you had them. You had the Pitbulls back then. You had Bad Breed, Axel and Ian Rotten, the brothers. Even though like one was English and one was from Kentucky, they were brothers.
The Pitbulls and the Dudley Boys stood out to me.
The Dudleys were a little bit later for me. When I think of ECW tag teams, I think of the golden age of their tag teams as like when Public Enemy is there.
Yeah.
And the Dudleys are just kind of joke characters who were kind of Raven's flunkies.
Yeah.
And I mean, it does evolve later, but like the Pitbulls, the Gangsters, Public Enemy, the Eliminators. The Eliminators were kind of the end of that era of tag teams. Cactus Jack and Mikey Whipwreck had a pretty fun tag team every now and then. Because Mikey Whipwreck would just be scared and Cactus would be crazy and pull him into these dangerous situations. It was a great dynamic. But unless you were a fan of ECW at the time, you don't realize how big of a part Public Enemy was of their ascension to becoming kind of that cult promotion that they became.
When we had the TTP, when we put the P in,
before we lost our P.
Yeah, before we lost our P, we did we did like 2 or 3 old ECW watch-alongs, and I remember with the one like Public Enemy, like the crowd went bananas.
They loved Public Enemy.
Super over.
Yeah, like the whole crowd was like waving, like then they like they would do they would do that, and they would do the Cabbage Patch. The Cabbage Patch was a big thing with Public Enemy. Yo, Jeff's ECW stories are legendary. He was the biggest troll of all time back. Like the things he would do to wrestlers is at it. Like we gotta do an ECW episode one week. Like just Jeff's ECW stories. Just have him on. That's gonna be literally the episode title is just Jeff's ECW stories of him just harassing Sandman and Tommy Dreamer and getting in a battle in the crowd with Paul Heyman, and when he was supposed to leave the arena snuck in.
The fire incident. Yeah, the
fire incident. There's like so many crazy. His friend almost getting burned by a hot branding iron. Like his ECW stories are absolutely crazy. That's definitely gonna, Jeff, whenever you're free, brother, and you can do like a virtual thing. I know Austin has that, or Precious has. I'm terrible. Precious has that set up. You should definitely join in with us and do it because your stories are fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The and that was just such a fun time as far as ECW just being another one where tag team wrestling really was put front and center. The Dudleys were huge, Public Enemy was huge, and it was never like took that back.
Wasn't RVD and Sabu then formed into a tag team?
Yeah, they would tag team. They would team a bit. They would always be like the singles wrestlers who would team sometimes too.
Yeah.
One of the big matches, that Heat Wave, their best pay-per-view was probably I think it was like Heat Wave 98. And one of the big matches there is RVD and Sabu against Hayabusa and Jinsei Shinzaki, formerly Hakushi.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
I think we covered the big ones. We could just sit here rattling off tag team. We didn't talk about some of the later WCW. Some of the later WCW ones. The Nasty Boys, Harlem Heat.
Harlem Heat, I think, was the first tag team that I seen that I was like, that was outside of WWE. Like I remember seeing Harlem Heat. I remember seeing who's another tag team that I remember looking at. And I was like, oh, that was a cool team, WCW. Because like a lot of the stuff I seen in WCW, I've already seen them in WWE, and I was just like, oh, that's just like
Harlem Heat.
WCW for me was like the store brand version of wrestling, and like that's just how I viewed it because I was a WWE guy.
See, Harlem Heat just triggered a whole other thing for me of the first time I saw Harlem Heat was Global Wrestling Federation, which was on ESPN in the early 90s, and Harlem Heat was the Ebony Experience. They were still Booker T and Stevie Ray, but they were the Ebony Experience. And I think I'm trying to think of other teams that may have been around that there. A lot of it was just like local Texas guys for the most part. You had Rod Price was there with it was like the East John Tatum. It was Rod Price and Hollywood John Tatum. I think there were another like they were the Coast to Coast connection. And John Tatum was the guy who broke Missy Hyatt in the pro wrestling. So
Yeah.
So you have that.
Jeff's a menace. So Jeff used to do almost like the stuttering John questions of Howard Stern, except to wrestlers. So Jeff says, I asked Rico one day in the hobby store. And
Rocco.
Rocco, if he ever ate chili and put his opponent in a hesitation and gave him the business, and Rocco yelled security.
So I'm gonna close on one of another great tag team promo, and it was an ECW one with Public Enemy.
Hulk Hogan coming.
No. That was WCW. That was Harlem Heat. Now, if Public Enemy would have said that, there would have been an issue because Public Enemy were white guys.
Yeah.
So they're training Mikey Whipwreck. Mike Whipwreck is going to wrestle the Sandman in a ladder match for the ECW title. So they say they're in Central Park. Who knows where they really are? They say they're in Central Park, and to train Mikey Whipwreck how to climb up the ladder really quickly, Rocco Rock hangs a 6-pack of beer up on a branch of the ladder, and Mikey has to climb the ladder, grab Rocco a beer, climb down, hand him the beer, and climb back up. While Johnny Grunge was kind of the straight man of the tag team. He was like, don't do anything crazy while I'm gone, because he's going to get stuff to train Mikey. And so Mikey's climbing up the ladder, grabbing a beer. Obviously, after they follow Mikey up with the camera, so Rocco's just dumping the beer, probably taking a sip and dumping the rest. And so the whole gimmick is, by the time Mikey's done getting the beers, Rocco's just completely blitzed drunk. and he's just like, Mikey, go! Just tell him to go up and get another one. And he stumbles around and knocks over the ladder. Mikey's caught in the tree and falls. It's hysterical. and the line they end of is just Rocco Rock completely blitzed going, if there's one thing I can't stand, it's a drunk. Just stumbles off camera, and it's amazing.
But that'll wrap up 80s and 90s tag teams, non-WWE. We will be back. We'll shoot for next Thursday. Anything's possible. Could also be a Friday.
The Can-Am connection. Stay tuned for next week. They were in WWF.
Yeah. So we'll be back with that. We'll start with you, bud. What do you got to where can people find you? Where can support you? Anything like that? Anything you want to plug?
Gavin's got an Instagram account, Gavin Baseball 22.
We got to change that soon. It's gonna be Gavin the Great. We got to change it from Gavin Baseball to Gavin the Great.
Yeah, we're working on it. He hasn't gotten so big yet that he has to diversify and split up his friends, but maybe someday it'll start coming. But no, he's like I said, he just get out and see him at a local wrestling event, support the independent guys, and you'll have a chance to catch up with us there.
Oh, are we going to see you Friday?
So I wasn't certain in the beginning because I was supposed to work tomorrow. However, there was a change that I was needed another day, so I got tomorrow off instead. So I'm hoping that I can pull a couple strings and be there.
Cool. I don't have a ride, so I'm at the mercy of everybody else for wrestling shows. But Alex is going to swing by and grab me. So I don't know what I'm doing at the show. I might just be there. But I'll get to see you.
Awesome.
Yeah, Crispy said came in late. It's all right, buddy. And then Shelby said miss you guys, miss you too. Also, Shelby, congratulations, won her first title over the weekend.
Awesome.
She is the new IWA Women's Champion. I got to be on the call, so that's kind of cool. I get to watch Shelby.
Everybody's coming in late. The birthday man is here. No longer a birthday. The birthday man, Eric Pinhead, is here.
All
Happy
these years,
birthday,
you finally became a man, Eric. This is your year.
That's what they say. Life begins at the age Eric is.
Yeah, the age Eric is.
I'll be there. I'll be there in like 2 months, so it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming in, hanging out. We have one more set of plugs to go through, but the return of the name Tornado Tag. So I'm hoping you guys enjoy that. But BP, where can people find you?
You can find me if you look up Murder My Dude. We have a new episode coming in about 2 hours. Comes out at midnight. Definitely not appropriate for the children. It's Murder My Dude. We use a little bit of colorful language. We talk about some
How dare you? Grow up.
I got a few more months. I'm gonna be a man, and now you can do that stuff until you hit like a certain age. But yeah, we have an episode coming out at midnight tonight. If you look up Murder My Dude wherever you find, I got to say that dreaded word, podcasts, you can find us there. This week we are talking about something that's going to be they're going to have a Netflix special on it soon. It's another case from Japan of
the last Japanese case you guys put on your podcast was that.
Oh yeah,
that was one of the worst stories I've ever heard in my life. This
one's not
almost gave me nightmares.
This one's not quite as bad, but it still is a very despicable person who. There's this thing in Japan called there's these clubs in Japan. In fact, one of them is in Roppongi, which made me think of Roppongi Vice in New Japan. But there are these clubs that basically a lot of times they'll hire women from like the US or England or Australia, mainly Caucasian women, to work as hostesses. And basically the job of a hostess is to be super nice to like the clientele, which usually older. It's not really a prostitution thing, but
I thought it was like, are we tiptoeing around here? What's happening?
No. I mean, it probably, if the price is right, and some of them, and like less reputable ones, probably. But a lot of it was more rooted in like the geisha tradition. Not that they were dressed like geishas or anything, but it would be more like they would pay attention to people. They would like laugh at their jokes, sing karaoke with them, just be very complimentary.
Bro,
and
if they need a fat white dude to get drunk and sing karaoke people in Japan,
sign me up. Well, two of these women wound up dead, so
win-win. I get hammered, sing karaoke, and then I get taken care of a couple weeks later.
That's kind of what the story's about. Before you can see it on Netflix, something we call like Tokyo Police Files on Netflix is coming out later this year. You can find out more about this case with us. It's the case of a guy named Joji Abara.
Cool. Links are below if you want to follow the rest of the content. Another horror movie review coming up with me and Heidi on the debut of Not Cool in High School Horror. It's going to be the movie Smile. So if you want to watch along with us and get ahead of it, it's not super new. So, spoiler alerts and stuff like that will be there in that. But go check it out. I think it's free on Peacock.
I actually just watched a movie I guess is considered horror, but it's not like supernatural horror. I watched The Menu. That was pretty interesting.
Okay. And then I will be doing a movie review on the Super Mario Brothers movie for the debut of Not Cool in High School with Billy Trey, the Converse kid, the guy you'll hear his music at the end here. Another episode of ABJ Podcast. We just wrapped up about an hour before this one with Cosmic. Great interview. Got to learn a lot about Cosmic, and you get to maybe get to learn a little bit about her besides the character and what she's into and what she likes. So that was a really good interview. And then unfortunately, for all you listeners out there of the ABJ podcast, this Sunday at 5 5 o'clock Sunday, the powers of be at Smashmaster Wrestling have requested an interview of me and Ricky Price, and it's going to be a nightmare. I apologize for all you in advance that you're going to have to listen to this bum. He already has defiled my merch.
Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Oh, jeez. You do one commentary with him, and you completely turn on me, BP. But he's went and defiled my merchandise. So if you want to get ahead of the curve and you want to be Team Ricky Price, you can head to my merch page and you get the brand new I Hate ABJ Podcast t-shirt. I don't know why you would want to order that. Don't you dare order that, by the way. See the numbers and I'll see your address. You'll get more than just a t-shirt. You said you a muffler, baby. every I Hate ABJ t-shirt is sent with a free muffler.
A complimentary muffler.
Also, I need to get I need you to pick out another shirt because the one you picked out that you won, I went to order it like a couple of days later, and I guess it was taken down by the powers that be because it was too close of a spoof. So they took it off us. So head over to the merch page and find one, and we'll send.
Just get him an I Hate ABJ shirt. That's fine.
Yeah.
Two of them.
Yeah, two of them. All right.
One for him, one for Gavin. Gavin can wear it under his Ricky Price.
So that interview will be on Sunday. I do have some confirmed interviews for the month. I'll kind of give you guys a preview now. I'm not telling you what episode, and these are not in order, but we'll just kind of put them out here. So one will be Brandon Downey, IWA former breakthrough champion, one of the craziest dudes on the independent scene, the dude, and we'll be there.
Oh yes, the dude.
Then we have, usually when it's a podcast, it's my house, it's my rules, my house. But in this instance, it's Ed's house.
Yeah, there you go. You should be thankful the dude kind of indirectly responsible for getting Ricky Price eliminated from the Sanctuary Stampede.
Yeah, he gave him gummies. I don't know what that meant. And then we have one of the independent stars who's been around so long, super super nice to us, just a veteran of the game. I'm a giant mark for this guy. I love him to death. Deshaun Pratt.
Oh yes, the great Deshaun Pratt.
We're gonna get a little rocking. We're gonna get a little rolling on the podcast, and we're gonna hang out with Squid Sterling.
Very nice.
Then we're gonna have from Grimm's Toy Show, as well as a lot of the scene on Jersey, Jay the Key Evans.
Awesome.
And then I don't know about this one, everybody.
Oh yeah. This
one.
I know.
Not kid friendly. I could probably tell that right now. I don't know if this might be the last time I'm allowed on the internet because he may do or say something.
You could very well get deplatformed for this one.
Yeah. So this one
easily.
This one I'm nervous about. I think it's gonna be either way. It's gonna be amazing. This might have to be a Patreon exclusive because I don't know if I'll be allowed to post this. Maybe this will be a Rumble exclusive. I think
too hot for the internet. Yeah, too hot for the internet.
Julia Smokes on the podcast. That's gonna be absolutely insane. I'm super excited that I do have 2 more spots open. I haven't heard back from the 2 people yet, but I do have some pretty good people who are on standby. And then the people I reached out to for the next month, another fire month coming up here for the ABJ podcast. Just hit 1,000 plays on the audio. So
very cool.
in less than a year, started in October, we're at 1,000 plays on the audio side of the platform. I believe I am 1 subscriber away right now on YouTube from 666 subscribers. And then we're done. We're done. Just stop there. But yeah, we're getting close to that 1,000 over there. I think it just hit 1,000 on Twitter.
You just gotta make sure you hit it before Julia Smokes gets you kicked off the internet. So
yeah, before
you have a time limit now. There's a ticking clock.
Yeah.
Great. I love Julia Smokes, even though he almost got me killed once by Masha Slamovich.
And he threw me in through a light last time I was on the show.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, so great stuff coming on the channel. Thank you guys so much for the support. Links below for myself, BP, Precious, and Philly Mike. If you do get any merchandise, please send a photo of you with it on so we can put you on social media thanking you for your contributions. I do have a lot going on when it comes to my personal life and cars issues, and I still have a trip planned to go to the UK for a few months that I'm not allowed to get out of because I was told by my buddy Raz that it's non-negotiable. So I am planning on doing a couple days in the UK for an AEW show. So we're going to get some content there. So thank you guys for the continued support. I love you guys to death. Once again, Palmer, thank you for coming on. Hope to have you on next week when we talk WWE teams. But until then, we'll see you next time. Tornado Tag. We're out of here. Here's some music by the Converse Kid, Billy Trey.